All right, let's jump right into the African Agro-Franchise Model. This is an explainer on what I genuinely believe is a complete blueprint for rural youth prosperity. We're talking about a concept that is literally flipping traditional farming on its head. Today, we're going to break down exactly how this highly scalable system creates massive rural wealth. And we're going to do it by looking at a business model that you already know and love. So think of your favorite fast food chain. You know how it works, right? A corporate headquarters provides a trusted, perfectly standardized playbook to their local store managers. Well, the agro-franchise works exactly the same way. But instead of flipping burgers, a parent company empowers young, ambitious Black African operators to run high-tech agribusinesses. One side provides the proven blueprint, and the other side, they bring it to life on the ground. But look, before this franchising system steps in, we really need to understand the reality on the ground, because it's tough. We're facing three massive hurdles here. First, you've got millions of incredibly capable rural Black youth who are struggling with severe unemployment, often forcing them to migrate to cities. Second, you have smallholder farmers working in total isolation. And when you work alone, middlemen get to dictate your prices and eat up all your profits. And third, there is a systemic, total lack of training, financing, and guaranteed buyers. It's just a fragmented, highly vulnerable system. And that brings us to a wild reality. Africa has some of the most fertile land on Earth, yet it imports billions of dollars in food. Why is that? Well, to put it simply, Africa doesn't actually have a food shortage problem. It has an agricultural organization problem. Think about it. The land is absolutely there. The demand for food is permanent. The missing link is just an organized system to connect the labor to the land and then to the market. So, how do we actually fix that? We do it through a beautifully symbiotic partnership. It's like an engine and a pilot. The parent company serves as the engine, right? They provide the training, the seeds, the tech, and crucial guaranteed market access. In turn, the rural youth step up as the pilots. They bring their incredible drive, their deep local knowledge, and their labor to manage the franchise units. The end result is that farming transforms from a daily struggle for survival into a serious engine for shared wealth. Now, you might be wondering, who actually pays for all of this? The real brilliance of this model is the stacked demand. Your primary customers are the young operators themselves, paying into the system. But it scales way up from there. Your secondary customers are these massive food processors and grocery chains who are just desperate for consistent, high-quality crops. And finally, you have governments and institutions that are eager to financially back anything that stabilizes the food supply and creates jobs for their youth. Okay, to run this profitably across an entire continent, you can't just rely on one messy, gigantic company. Instead, you build what's called a multi-venture ecosystem. Now, I know that sounds like a bunch of corporate jargon, but it's really just legal speak for breaking a giant mission down into smaller, highly specialized companies. It protects the core assets, keeps the accounting super clean, and honestly, it maximizes profits at every single link in the chain. Let's translate that legalese into plain English so we can really see how the gears turn. Think of it like a machine. You have the holding company, that's the brain, owning the brand and the tech. Then you have the inputs company, that's your fuel, buying seeds and fertilizer at wholesale prices. After that, the processing company acts like the oven, turning raw food into premium packaged goods. And lastly, the rural finance SPV is the lifeblood, existing solely to provide loans to the young farmers. Every single gear has a specific, simple purpose. For the investors tuning in, here is the ultimate capital strategy. Own the system, not the dirt. Traditional agriculture is notoriously asset-heavy. Buying tractors and massive plots of land is incredibly expensive. But this franchise model, it's a brilliant hybrid. You own the intellectual property, the brand, the software. You own the recipe, but you don't have to buy every single kitchen. It makes the entire platform incredibly asset-light and infinitely scalable. Let's follow the money, because this is where it gets really interesting. Just collecting those basic franchise fees brings in a moderate, steady margin. But look at the whole ecosystem. Selling seeds and fertilizer back to your network, that is highly profitable. Taking a raw tomato and processing it into branded tomato paste? Bam, that captures the absolute highest margins. Combine all of that with tech subscriptions and loan interest, and you've suddenly built an absolute engine of predictable, recurring income. The difference between the old way and this new way is literally night and day. A solo farmer has one very vulnerable payday a year, entirely dependent on the weather. If it doesn't rain, they don't get paid. But this franchise ecosystem, it captures value at every single stage, from the moment the seed hits the soil to the packaged food hitting the supermarket shelf. Because people need to eat every single day, this system takes that seasonal stress and turns it into multiple streams of highly lucrative recurring revenue. And let me tell you, this model is an absolute juggernaut when it comes to scaling. We're talking about rapid expansion across youth-heavy nations like Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, all tracked effortlessly through cloud software. Plus, you get these massive network effects. Think of it kind of like a wholesale club. As more and more young farmers join the network, the parent company can buy fertilizer in bigger and bigger bulk. That makes everything cheaper and drives up profits for everyone involved. Of course, we have to keep it real and look at the risks objectively, right? Politically, governments can suddenly shift export bans or change fertilizer subsidies overnight. Financially, farming takes time, so you have to navigate long cash cycles and tight liquidity. You also might run into local land access disputes. And operationally, you have to govern tightly against what they call inventory leakage, which, honestly, is just the polite business term for crops spoiling or mysteriously going missing before they ever hit the market. But if you manage those risks and build a strong governance shield, the exit potential is phenomenal. Private equity firms absolutely salivate over recurring food infrastructure. We could easily see strategic mergers with global commodity giants because, again, food demand is permanent. A mature network becomes a long-term, cash-flowing dividend machine. And for the absolute winners in this space, you're looking at ringing the bell for an IPO as a publicly traded African agricultural institution. And just to add fuel to the fire, this entire blueprint aligns perfectly with AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area. Think of this essentially as the EU, but for Africa. It drastically reduces border friction for trade. That means a holding company located in, say, Mauritius can seamlessly manage subsidiaries and move food across Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya with unprecedented legal protection and efficiency. It is a real game changer. So let's wrap this up. The fast food model completely took over the globe. And now that exact same blueprint is ready to ignite Africa's agricultural revolution. Food demand isn't a passing trend, it's permanent human infrastructure. We have millions of brilliant, ambitious young Black African operators standing by, just waiting to plug into a system that actually works. The blueprint is proven, the youth are absolutely ready. So the only question left is, are you going to just watch this revolution happen, or are you going to help build it? Don't just sit there, reach out to us today, let's get a conversation going, and let's get to work. Catch you on the next explainer.